Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our October 28, 2025 Madison County Fiscal Court meeting. This is a regular scheduled meeting here at our Madison County Courthouse Annex in our fiscal courtroom at 135 West Irvin Street. I really appreciate everybody being here today. We've got a full agenda, but we're really excited about the guests that we have. So, Clerk Barger, if you will, please call the roll.
Master Combs.
Here.
Master Lockmuller. Master Hughes.
Trick or treat.
Master Botkin.
Present.
Judge Taylor.
Here. Next, I would like to invite my friend Sherry Green from St. Paul AME Church up to lead us in a word of prayer. I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you. Good to be here. Good morning. Let us pray. Gracious God, we just thank you for another day that you allowed us to see. Almighty and benevolent God, we humbly gather before you on this day as we unite in gratitude for the immeasurable grace and boundless love that you continually bestow upon us. We offer our heartfelt thanks, not merely for existence itself, but just for the precious gift of life. We are grateful today for the dignity of meaningful labor and the noble privilege of stewardship over our responsibilities that you have entrusted to us. Father God, we are particularly mindful on this day of the profound freedom you have granted humanity, the liberty to seek and embrace you. We ask on this day that even in our perfections, that your steadfast love, stemming from your infinite compassion and unwavering mercy, remains our constant anchor. We are mindful today through sacred texts that governing authorities are established by your divine providence, not for arbitrary power, but as instruments for fostering tranquility, upholding righteousness, and ensuring justice within society. Therefore, God, we ask you just to bless each and every one under the sound of our voice. May I endure, foster harmony and equitable opportunity be blessed in this community. We pray your guiding hands that you would direct all proceedings today. And we thank you for another day, all these petitions and the desires of our hearts for a just and peaceful society as we humbly pray and thank you once again. In your precious name, Jesus, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Sheriff, if you will, lead us in the pledge.
Everyone please rise and face our flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Thank you, Sheriff. Members of the court, y'all have had a chance to look over our previous meeting minutes. That was our meeting that we had on October 14th. It was a regular scheduled meeting. I need a motion and a second to approve, please.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Master Combs.
Yes.
Master Hughes.
Yes.
Master Botkin.
Yes.
Judge Taylor.
Yes. Next is the treasurer's report. Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning. All right, our treasurer's report is as of July 31st. This time, our total fund budget was $51,051,035.55. Our general fund revenues were at 10.52%, expenditures 4.05%. Our road fund revenues, were 3.72%, expenditures 3.88%. Jail fund revenues, 18.17%, 6.25% for expenditures. LGEA fund revenues were 0.06%, expenditures 0.97%. CSEP fund revenues were 2.1% and expenditures 0.71%. 911 fund revenues, 1.03%, expenditures 2.29%. and our health fund revenues 8.85%, expenditures 11.2%.
All right. Thank you, Sarah. Any questions? Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. All right, first order of business today is we've got a wonderful opportunity here to recognize some very special ladies that have made Madison County proud. I'm going to read the proclamation, girls. If y'all want to start making your way up to the microphone, Coach. Molly Moo, you get to be the first one to say a few words since you're the team captain. Whereas the Madison Central girls golf team won the 2025 Kentucky High School Athletic Association State Tournament on October 9th, 2025. And whereas the team had a highly successful season, winning 7 of 9 events prior to winning the state tournament. Whereas the state championship team members and scoring averages are as follows. Senior Molly Neely, scoring average 74. Senior Mackenzie Federspiel, did I say that right? Is it close? Is that close? Scoring average 74. Senior Aubrey Barrow, scoring average 75. Freshman Rosie Patterson, scoring average 76. Senior Haley Federspiel, scoring average 79. Tenny Orr, coach, and Coach Holly Connect, assistant coach. Whereas the team's highlight record consists of Molly Neely, personal best score 67. Aubrey Barrow, personal best score 69. Rosie Patterson, personal best score 69. New school team total 281. Wow. To win the Kentucky Golf Coaches Association Invitational. New state team score of 604 at the KHSAA State Championship. Whereas we would like to show recognition to these student athletes and coaches for their exemplary performance in the representation of themselves, their school, and Madison County during the 2025 KHSAA Golf Championship and throughout the season. Now, therefore, I, Reagan Taylor, Madison County Judge Executive, and the Madison County Fiscal Court do hereby proclaim October 28, 2025 as Madison Central Girls Golf Team Championship Day and encourage all Madison Countyans to join us in congratulating these young ladies on a job well done. And Coach, before you get started, I do want to recognize also the parents. As a golf dad, as a parent that used to get to walk the courses with my daughter, one thing that I always loved about golf, more so than a lot of the other sports, is golf with your girls is a family affair. It is a special time, and so parents, the ones that are here, the ones that couldn't be here, thank you. Thank you for walking many, many, many miles. Thank you for having sore feet with these girls to make Madison County proud. It's awesome. And you, 5, you need to thank your parents. All right, Coach.
Yes, so I'm Holly Connect, and I'm the assistant coach. Tenny Orr is the head coach, and I'm standing in for her today. We have 5 girls here that have worked their hearts out, parents that have been there every step of the way, and I thank you all for recognizing these girls. I didn't know what to expect today, but this is really, it's quite an honor, and I hope you guys soak all of this in. I mean, October 28th is your day. You earned it, and this is going to follow you throughout your life too. So I'm excited to see what's in future for you all, and thank you so much. Yeah.
Get up there, Molly Mooey Hooey.
Hi, I'm Molly. I've been on the team for this is my 6th year now, and this is my 2nd state championship, and this one is the most special for me because this group of girls and we've just worked so hard this season. We broke 2 records, and we also, the favorite thing we did was we grew closer together as friends too. So I'll cherish these friendships and the things we did this year my whole life, going out as a senior. Kind of sad we're all going out except Rosie, so wish her luck. But yeah, thank you all for honoring us today. This is really special, and we'll hold this forever. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Rosie. Thank you guys for having us. I just want to say how thankful I am to have had these girls to look up to. not just this year, all the years that I've been here, but this year was just so crazy with everything, and I'm so thankful to have them to look up to with all their hard work and everything that they've done for me. So that's all.
You got your work cut out for you
Yeah.
the next 3 years.
Thank you guys for recognizing us, and it's a really big honor. I also like to thank Madison County, like investing into like the parks and recreation, because through like Gibson Bay and like Arlington, we've really grown as a golf team for years upcoming, and the golf program's been great for our years, and the boys have had great success. So thank you for investing in us so early on.
Hi, I'm Mackenzie Feddersville, and I'm a senior, and I just wanted to thank all of these girls and thank you guys for the recognition that we get, because the recognition, leads not only us to keep on working and pursuing golf career, but also fellow of young ones to even get into athletes, not just golf. But thank you guys for having us.
So 281, if you don't know anything about golf, I mean,
Can Haley introduce herself? Yeah.
Okay, I'm Haley. I'm a senior on the golf team. And, I think playing on the golf team, it's definitely like changed my life. And especially this year, we've all grown so close. And just thank you guys for having us and recognizing us and congratulating us. Yeah.
it's good. It's good stuff. So if you don't know anything about golf, but 281, I mean, is unbelievable. I mean, it really is. Back when my oldest daughter played, I mean, we were excited when they shot 330, I mean, it's a big deal. So very proud of you all very much. The principal, Madison Central here, Brandon Fritz is here, and also Superintendent Randy Neely's with us. Molly Moo is his youngest. And not every dad gets two girls that win state champions. And so very proud. Yeah. So y'all come on up. We'll take a picture. So, yeah, I'd like to get one with the girls, and then I'd love the parents. Brandon, they would come up. So if y'all want to kind of go ahead, parents, Brandon, if you want to kind of be making your way up. Switch your throat.
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3.
All right, then, parents, y'all fill in. Gotta get back to kids.
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Hey, Ryan, make me look skinny, can you?
You can only do so much.
Thank you all.
Hey, Judge, I'm curious by a show of hands, how many of y'all have scholarships college? Anybody got scholarship offers yet? 2, 3, congratulations. Awesome.
Proud of y'all.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
Good to see you.
Randy, good to see you. Good to see you.
Appreciate you. Good stuff there. All right, next we have another group to recognize today through our National Association of Counties. It's recognizing the week of November 4th through the 11th as Operation Greenlight for veterans. Whereas the residents of Madison County have great respect, admiration, and the utmost gratitude for all the men and women who have selfishly served our country and this community in the armed forces. And whereas the contributions and sacrifice of those who served in the armed forces have been vital in maintaining the freedoms and way of life enjoyed by our citizens. And whereas Madison County seeks to honor individuals who have made countless sacrifices for freedom by placing themselves in harm's way for the good of all. And whereas veterans continue to serve our community in the American Legion, veterans of foreign wars, religious groups, civil service, and by functioning as county veteran service officers in 29 states to help fellow former service members access more than $52 billion in federal health, disability, and compensation benefits each year. And whereas approximately 200,000 service members transition to civilian communities annually, and an estimated 20% increase of service members will transition to civilian life in the near future. And whereas studies indicate that 44 to 72% of service members experience high levels of stress during transition from military to civilian life, and whereas active military service members transitioning from military service are at high risk for suicide during their first year after military service, and whereas the National Association of Counties encourages all counties, parishes, and boroughs to recognize Operation Greenlight for veterans, and whereas Madison County government appreciates the sacrifices of our United States military personnel and believes specific recognition should be granted. Now, therefore, be it resolved, with designation as a green light for Veterans County, I, Reagan Taylor, Madison County Judge Executive in the Madison County Fiscal Court, do hereby proclaim November 4th through the 11th, 2025, as a time to salute and honor the service and sacrifices of those transitioning from active service. And be it further resolved that in observance of Operation Greenlight, Madison County encourages its citizens in patriotic tradition to recognize the importance of honoring all those who made immeasurable sacrifices to preserve freedom by displaying green lights in a window of their place of business or residence from November the 4th through the 11th, 2025. And today we thought that it would be appropriate that we honor those veterans and they come and get this proclamation that we're county employees and veterans. And so as I read your name, if you would come up, please. So Madison County Sheriff's Office, on my list, we have Tony Terry, Steve Laszlo, Todd Allen, John Northern, Chris Campbell, Griffin Pfister, Matt West, Rob Stinson, Jonathan Osborne, Tristan Harp, Kenton Humphrey, and Steve Karkowski. Is it still an O? It's pronounced. Okay. Detention Center, we have our jailer Larry Brock, Stephen Klein, Taylor Wiles, John Claypool. Some of these folks are not working today or in training as well. From the fire department, we have Steve Asbury, Thomas Pettit, Matthew Webb, and Nathaniel Wells. And Nathaniel's not on shift today. From our road department, we have Bobby Seals. I think Bobby's over there. Planning department, is Vernon, did Vernon make it? Yeah, there you are, Vernon. Vernon Hubbs. And then we have one of our very own elected officials, Tom Botkin. Yep, as our magistrate. Tom, if you want to say a few words there.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Really?
Imagine me wanting to say a few words. All I want to say is I thank these men for their service to Madison County. Veterans in the United States, there's about 17 million of us, give or take a few, and we represent about 6% of the population. So we're very a small number, but we're very strong in mind, and thank all of y'all. We appreciate you.
We don't have that wide of a screen on the camera. So
Go 2 rows deep.
Everybody pivot to the side, yeah.
She should have turned on the photo bomb. Thank y'all. Appreciate y'all coming up. Over to the court meeting. All right, good stuff. That'll clear it out.
That's thinning out now.
Yeah. It is a little bit, yeah. All right, thanks. Good stuff. Next, second reading of ordinance 2025-010. It's Emergency Management Agency Fund FY '26 Budget Amendment. Sarah?
Yes, an ordinance relating to the budget amendment of the Madison County Emergency Management Agency EMA Fund budget. Whereas the Madison County Fiscal Court is responsible for the administration of the county budget, and whereas the Madison County Fiscal Court has realized unbudgeted receipts, and whereas the county treasurer has reviewed the budget to ensure sound financial practices, now therefore be it ordained by the Fiscal Court of the County of Madison, Commonwealth of Kentucky, the EMA fund budget be amended by $311,325.84. This ordinance shall become effective on the date of the second reading and adoption.
Thank you, Sarah. Members of the court, you've heard ordinance 2025-010. What's the pleasure of the court, please?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion second to approve. Any discussion? Anyone here to discuss or talk about ordinance 2025? Is this the second reading? All right. No conversation? Clerk Barger, please call the roll.
Master Botkin?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Hughes?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Thank you, Sarah. Next, second reading of ordinance 2025-011, restructuring of 911 fee collection for Madison County Emergency Communications Center. Jill?
Good morning. This is an ordinance relating to the restructuring of funding for the Emergency Communications Center Enhanced 911 Service through implementation of a water meter fee in the unincorporated areas of Madison County, Kentucky, and repealing Ordinance 07-11. Whereas the Madison County Fiscal Court has the responsibility to provide and maintain enhanced 911 emergency communication services for the residents of Madison County, Kentucky. And whereas the funding mechanism for 911 services has historically been supported in part by a monthly fee assessed on landline telephone service via Ordinance 07-11. And whereas the number of landline telephones in the county has declined significantly, resulting in an unsustainable and unequitable funding model. And whereas KRS 65.760 and KRS 67.083 authorize local governments to enact ordinances and collect fees for the support of 911 emergency services. And whereas the Madison County Fiscal Court finds it necessary and proper to establish a reliable, equitable, and sustainable funding mechanism to support the continued operation of the Madison County Emergency Communications Center. Now, therefore, it be ordained by the Fiscal Court of Madison County. And we go through and define each of the entities. I want to point out the non-commercial classification is any account that is not required to pay Kentucky sales tax based on state law. Commercial classification is any account that is required to pay Kentucky sales tax to the utility district and has a water meter that is 1 inch or less. And then industrial or large commercial classification is any account that is required to pay Kentucky sales tax to the utility district and has a water meter that is greater than 1 inch. We establishment of the fee and the fees along with those three categories of $3.50, $12.50, and $25. We talk about the collection of those fees by each of the utility and water districts or associations that are operating within and serving customers within the unincorporated areas of Madison County, and they shall be responsible for collecting those fees. The use of all of the funds collected through the 911 fee and collected under this ordinance shall be exclusively for the provision, operation, maintenance, and improvement of Madison County 911 emergency communications system as outlined in KRS 65.760.
And Jill, will you talk about that? That is very specific
It
in
is.
what we can spend these funds for. I know, that we've talked about this a lot, and we've gone through different strategies. Some people were concerned, will this get in the general fund? Will it? No, it is specific to certain things. There are even some things in 911's umbrella that this can't pay for.
You're correct, Judge. That KRS 65.760 specifically outlines what it can pay for and what it cannot pay for. It can pay for radio infrastructure, but it does not pay for portable radios or mobile radios or things of that nature. They have to be paid for by the individual agency. It can pay for all things that are core specific to operating a dispatch center and system. So things obviously that are related to how they answer the phone and the personnel that it takes and the benefits it takes, but it cannot pay for things that may not be core to those duties. And that's outlined. It's one of the only KRS that I've ever seen that is so specific to say this is not and has a list allowed. And so we obviously get audited on that on a regular basis, in addition to our regular audits from the State 911 Board to ensure that we're doing that and complying. And that law also applied to the landline fees and any fees that are collected under CRMS funds. So that is something that we're accustomed to, and that's one reason that we do operate a 911 fund separate from a general fund. So these dollars come in, they never touch general fund dollars and never come into the general fund in any way.
Yeah.
Section 7 talks about the repeal of the landline fee, ordinance 07-11 that established the landline fee. It's hereby repealed effective December 31st, 2025, and shall not be collected thereafter. So as the new fee comes in January, this will end in December, so there will be no duplication of a fee or collection mechanism. And as I mentioned, the effective date of January 1, 2026. So this is the second reading, and that's an overview of said ordinance.
Motion approve ordinance 2025-011, Judge.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just have a comment. I want to thank you, Judge, and Jill, you as well, Chris, Robin, everybody that had a hand in this. We're looking at 2 years' worth of work that some of it got scrapped, and we started all over and came up with a model that, that the public was happy with and sort of drove to a degree. And so I think this will be acceptable to everyone. I appreciate everyone's work on that.
Jill, one thing I want to bring up is on the non-commercial. I think there was some conversation about some of our farmers in our community, and one of the things that we found out through this process was that farmers can fill out. There's a lot of farmers that are actually paying taxes, I guess be sales tax on their water. But they're actually exempt. So one of the things that we, in my office, is committing to, Dr. Mionke, I think, has actually already made some phone calls to Extension Office, is my understanding. But we really want to work with our farmers to make sure they're aware of the application that they could fill out that would exempt them from actually paying the sales tax on their water. Some of them might not even know. I know Jill had some conversations with Chief and Scott. They're both farmers as well. And so I just kind of want to say that today to kind of get it out there, that because we really want to make sure that the farming community, is benefiting to the full extent. Because I'm sure, Billy Ray, you farm, I'm sure sometimes different parts of the year, your water bill could be probably pretty high on a farm.
I think there's a couple of things there too, just to add on to that and to point out that agricultural sales and use tax exemption, there's a form that goes along with that it allows you to have that exemption number. And I appreciate our utility companies working with us and helping. That is a problem that they currently see that people do not take advantage of that, and so that they ask, hey, can we use this process to help encourage more people to take advantage of that? But that agricultural sales and use exemption applies to all utilities, not just water. So it would apply to a farmer's electric or gas or other utilities. But in addition, it applies to other sales tax things. And I think that growing up in a farming world and a farming community, there's an opportunity for many of our farmers who may not have already been taking advantage of that if they just didn't know. So I think in working with the Extension Office and folks like Ag Credit and other entities, Farm Bureau, that work with farmers every day and communicating this to them, if it can help one farmer, I think we're doing our job. So.
That's good.
Does the Extension Office have the forms?
They do.
As well?
And we actually have a letter, and I think I communicate that all to most of you with the letter, so that you all have the letter that we're providing as well as the forms, and then even a sample of the letter that said farmer will get back with their exemption number as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you. Any other comments, conversation, any discussion?
You know, I've been surprised at how little feedback I've gotten on this proposal. Thus far, I suspect that might change a little bit when the water bills start rolling in after the first year. We might hear a little bit of
But remember, you shouldn't have it on your landline as a single landline holder, maybe in this room.
I'm in the minority on that, so I'm in good shape. It'd be some other folks is not used to that.
Yeah.
So. But anyway, it's good.
That's important to remind citizens, though, that they should not see that on their landline in January.
I think the sheriff and I is the only ones got landlines in this room right here, probably.
Any other discussion? Anything else? We do have a motion second to approve the second reading of orders 2025-011. At this time, I'll ask for any kind of public comment that there might be that's here today. We did not receive anything online. Jill, I know, Robin, we checked this morning. So seeing no one get up, Clerk Barger, call the roll.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Hughes?
Yes.
Master Bacon?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. All right, next, Resolution 2025-099. This is a collection of Madison County 911 water meter fee. Jill.
This is a resolution requesting and directing the cooperation of our water districts, associations, and utilities to coincide with the ordinance that we just passed. Whereas Madison County Fiscal Court has enacted ordinance number 2025-011, establishing a 911 service fee on water meters located in the unincorporated areas of Madison County, which shall become effective January 1, 2026. And whereas the funding mechanism for 911 services has historically supported this by a landline fee. And whereas the collection of the 911 water meter fee requires the cooperation of all water districts, associations, and utilities operating within Madison County. And the Madison County Fiscal Court recognizes the essential role in the utilities in ensuring a fair, effective, sustainable collection method to continue the support of the 911 Emergency Communication Center. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Fiscal Court of Madison County that Madison County Fiscal Court hereby formally requests and directs all water district, water associations, and other water utilities operating within the unincorporated areas of Madison County to collect the 911 water meter fee as established by Ordinance 2025-011 and remit such fees to the Madison County Treasurer on a monthly basis. Section 2, water utilities shall be entitled to retain an administrative fee as set forth in ordinance number 2025-011 and by the memorandum of agreement to offset reasonable costs associated with the collection and remittance of the fee. In Section 3, all funds collected shall be deposited into the special revenue fund designated solely for the operation, maintenance, and improvement of Madison County 911 system, ensuring transparency and accountability in the use of said funds. In Section 4, the Madison County Judge Executive or his designee is authorized to execute any and all agreements of memorandum of agreement with the water districts, associations, and utilities or other agencies as may be necessary to carry out the intent of this resolution and ordinance 2025-011.
Thank you, Jill. Members of the court, you've heard Resolution 2025-099. What's the pleasure of the court, please?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and second to approve Resolution 2025-099.
Just a
Discussion.
quick question, Judge. Jill, the fee for the water companies, is there a cap on the fee that they can charge?
It's whatever is determined and agreed upon by the fiscal court. and the utility district. There is not a cap. The law says, and the OIG or the OAG opinion says that it has to be fair and reasonable and consistent with what's being the cost that it's to do that service, but also of what's being utilized throughout the state.
When we did the research on this, Jill and some of our team, not sure who all was involved, but we reached out, Tom, to a lot of different communities that are actually already doing this. And I think the average was between 2% and 3%. Was that fair, Jill?
It is, and
Yeah.
I think it was like 2.7% or something was when you truly averaged it out. I think there's about 14 communities that we reached out to. Some do not charge an administrative fee at all. We worked significantly with the utilities and their software provider to make that as streamlined as possible, so it really doesn't create any extra work on the utilities. I think that's been the goal from the beginning, is so that it doesn't create a lot of extra work for their staff and their team. And so in doing that, and talking with all of them, I think that they're all comfortable with a fair and reasonable in that range.
That would have been my second question. Could the fee be different between water districts?
Our goal is to have a joint resolution in MOA between all of the utility districts that they sign, so that the terms of the said agreements are the same for every utility district.
Thank you.
Now, does that go in addition to the monthly fee, or is it subtracted from?
It's subtracted.
Okay.
Yep, it's subtracted. Yep,
Good question.
yep. That was all figured in our financial model. Yep.
And they already do that now with other taxing districts. So they're familiar with the process.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions? We do have a motion second to approve Resolution 2025-099. Hearing none, Clerk Barger, call the roll.
Master Hughes?
Yes.
Master Backus?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Thank you, Jill. Next, second reading of ordinance 2025-012. It's franchise for the operation and maintenance of a telecommunications system in Madison County, Kentucky. Jill?
This is an ordinance relating to the Madison County Fiscal Court creating a franchise for the operation and maintenance of a telecommunications non-cable system in the county of Madison, Kentucky, setting forth conditions accompanying the grant of franchise and providing for the regulation of said system. Whereas Madison County Fiscal Court is authorized and empowered to award telecommunications franchises, and whereas the Madison County Fiscal Court has found and determined that the construction, operation, maintenance, and utilization of a telecommunications franchise over, across, and under public right-of-ways in Madison County benefits the citizens it serves. And whereas in order to protect the health, safety, and welfare of citizens in Madison County, to protect and preserve the county's public right-of-way infrastructure, and to provide for the orderly administration of the franchise contemplated herein, it is necessary and appropriate to require the successful franchisee to conduct its business and operations in a lawful manner in compliance with the terms and conditions set forth herein. Now therefore be it ordained by the Fiscal Court of the County of Madison, the Commonwealth of Kentucky, as follows. Article 1 is the creation of the franchise. Article 2 is outlining the existing legislation. We also talk about the definitions, what it means to be a cable service versus a cable system. All of this is, of course, also under the law of the Federal Communications Commission, which is outlined here as well. I promise I'm not reading all 38 pages. Section 4 talks about the application process. There will be an application fee that is non-refundable to anyone of the applicants that apply for a franchise. And the government reserves the right to reject any and all applications as necessary. It goes through what is going to be found on that application, the rights under the franchise, the standards that go along with it. Section 7 is specific to moving permits and tree trimming. Section 8 is related to the bonds that are required. Section 10 is related to insurance that is required. Section 13 is the duration, the franchise duration. It is initially created for a 10-year period from the date of acceptance by the fiscal court. So this is the first step, as you all will remember, in this process, is passing the ordinance to allow for a franchise agreement. Section 14 talks about the penalties. Section 16 is the right to terminate or cancel the franchise. So this is what gives us the authority in order to make changes there. Section 19 talks about advertising for bids of said franchises, which will be the next step in this process. If the court votes to pass this ordinance, that will be the next step, is to advertise for bids for said franchises. And then Section 21 talks about compensation. If you all remember, we had a little bit of a conversation about this particular section during the first reading, and this ordinance gives us the opportunity to choose whether we get our annual distribution of the state telecommunications excise tax, or we charge individual franchise fees, whichever is the most beneficial to the fiscal court. So this gives us the authority to do either or and make a decision based on going through the franchise process and what that's going to look like, and being able to do a fair estimation of what those collections would be. There's also a section, Section 33 is based on the aesthetic standards that are required for all new things, poles, towers, support structure, things of that nature. And then Article 5, this ordinance shall become effective on the date of the second reading and adoption, if there's no other questions.
Thank you, Jill.
Motion approve ordinance 2025-012, Judge.
Second.
All right, have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Jill, this is a very detailed document, and it references in here the Communications Act of 1934, which is another very detailed document. So thank you for your work on this and everybody that was involved in that.
All right, anyone else? All right, this is the second reading of ordinance 2025-012. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on behalf of this ordinance? All right, seeing none and no other conversation, Clerk Barger, call the roll.
Master Buckin?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Hughes?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. All right, next, the next three items are resolutions about petition for a grave removal and reinterment. One's a John Reed Cemetery, a Hockaday Cemetery, and a Krigler Cemetery. One of the things before we start reading these resolutions, I thought that it would be appropriate, Preston, maybe just to have a little bit of an overview that you could give us a little bit of backstory. This is the first time that I'm getting close to ending my 11th year. This is the first time that I've ever dealt with this through our conversations. Not many communities probably have ever dealt with this too much. Billy Ray, I don't know if you ever really had to deal with this or not, but I thought before maybe we could just have some 50,000-foot view discussion.
Yeah.
And then if there's specific questions per resolution, per abandoned cemetery, then we could get into those during those readings of those resolutions.
That's a great approach. Thank you, Judge.
And then if you wouldn't care, I know we have some different folks here with us today. I think we have some citizens that are here. And so we'll get everybody just so we can have just a good conversation here today to make sure that we're acting appropriately, okay? Preston.
Thank you, Judge, and good morning to the court. It's always great to be with you all, and appreciate you all taking the time and the consideration that you have on what is a sensitive issue and an issue that for most people is a first impression sort of an issue, as Judge says. I know one of my law partners handled something similar to this in Franklin County a few years ago, and a good colleague of mine, a friend, handled one in Fayette County, but it is rare that these don't happen and come up very often. And it's mostly in the sense of when a property owner seeks to start looking towards what they might like to do with their land, surveys the land, then they determine that there is an old cemetery that has been abandoned or that the inhabitants there are unknown. In a lot of development situations you all have seen where a zone change may come to you and a developer say, I have identified that there is several marked graves here and we're going to build around them, or we're going to appropriately partition that off.
well, in the situation of very, very old graves that you don't know who's buried there and necessarily, and sometimes take up large parts of the land, it seems to me more appropriate to remove those graves and reinter them in a public cemetery, a place that is a solemn place that's designed to honor those souls. And so that's really what we're doing here, is for these property owners to have an opportunity to better use their land and to appropriately respect the graves that are there, have licensed funeral directors move them to a public cemetery. And the funeral directors that are here that are going to work on all three of these projects, introduce Mr. Billy Butcher and Chase Thomas, that are with the Oldham Roberts Powell Funeral Home. And they may have a lot more to add with the technical aspects, and I'll hope to add a little bit more of the legal aspects and why we're doing this. So there's a letter in the record that I sent to the judge that I think most of you all probably have, that I tried to outline the law as best I could. So there are a couple different situations about grave removal found in the Kentucky Revised Statutes. And this particular one is when a private property owner seeks to remove graves. There are other examples in the statutes of when, say, a city government or a county government seeks to remove the graves for a public purpose by building a road, something like that. If a private individual wants to remove a grave, they have to operate under KRS 381-755, which says you seek the fiscal court to deem the graves abandoned. And then if the fiscal court order deems the graves abandoned, you go to the state's Department of Vital Statistics with Health and Family Services and file an application there to move the graves, where you will give them all of the known information about those that are buried there, and then and all of what you will do to move them to a respectful place and mark them appropriately. So the first step is that having the fiscal court deem the graves abandoned. And the standard there is in that same statute that says that these graves have been unattended for at least 10 years to the best knowledge of the property owner. And we'll go through each property, but the first property, the Reed property, is currently being developed by Richmond Development Company, and that is behind the Chrysler Mann building between that and the trailer park. Then the other two cemetery sites are on Begley property, behind the Buc-ee's area. And in both those situations, you have property owners who, in the case of Richmond Development, hasn't owned the property for 10 years, but have talked to people who owned it previously. In the Begley properties, you have, that's changed hands amongst several Madison County families many times, even since the last known descendant of those buried there. So we believe the record shows that all three of these, have been abandoned and untended for 10 years. And so they meet that standard for you. Now, I know you'll have a lot of questions about the policy, the process and the policy, but what we're really only asking the court to do is, based on that statutory standard, to say that, yes, we agree that those particular cemetery sites have been abandoned. Then the funeral directors have to go to the state to handle the rest of the logistics and the permitting and the approvals. So that's really where we are right now from a broad scope, Judge. And I will add that Mr. Butcher and Mr. Thomas did go to the Madison Circuit Court, and because again, you wonder why the fiscal court, why did the General Assembly give this to the fiscal court? And it's very old law, and I'd say at the time the fiscal court probably handled a lot more of these things. But Judge Mayer said, I don't believe I have the authority to do that as a matter of first impression. I could maybe if it came back out of the court with questions, but I don't have the authority. The statute says it's the fiscal court. So the circuit court's kind of already weighed into that. And then the last thing I'll say, because I know it applies to all three properties, of general question is, well, all three of these properties are annexed into the city of Richmond. So why would it not be the city commission that would handle this? Well, it's again, the very plain language of that statute says a city commission or council can choose to petition the circuit court to remove graves for a public purpose, but a private property owner has to go to the fiscal court. And I noted two attorney general opinions that, again, this is an old issue. We don't do this a lot. One's from 1978 and one's from 1982. But both those Attorney General opinions say, yes, that's correct, even in annexed city limits. If it's in the geographical limits of the county, then it's the fiscal court's responsibility to make this determination. So that's a lot, Judge. I hope I covered from that 50-foot, and then we can get into all the details that you like, or I'm happy to answer questions on that right away.
Yeah, I'll open it up.
Yeah, I mean, I've got several questions, and I understand that you followed the statute, and it's pretty plain what it says. Is the owner considered an alternative for moving the graves? Have they considered incorporating this area into their development at all?
So my understanding from the two owners is because of the nature of the way that the sites are, I think from the Richmond development site, the Reed property, I think actually may be that cemetery site may be in direct contradiction to what they're trying to do. I think from the Begley perspective, I think we all know that they have plans to develop that property, but there may not be exact plans now. And so I think they're trying to avoid that always being, an impediment to what they may want to do, because I think it would, unless you have a really appropriately done cemetery site, which these are not, these are that old that they're kind of scattered and not well maintained, then what would the practicality would be to just be building around, over top, or God forbid accidentally, to disturb. And so I think that's the idea, is to move them, preemptively, and get them into a public cemetery. So I think that's a good question, and I have even presented to you all situations where developers have said, we know that this is a well-maintained gravesite, and we've talked to but in a lot of those cases, they know the families, and there's somebody that is willing to take on the maintenance and the care of those cemeteries.
So these cemeteries, have they had access, or they have right-of-ways that descendants could have, over time, gone to these properties to maintain or to show respect, or has that been available to the descendants? Do you know that?
I can say at one time, likely so. When you look at the span of the folks that have been buried there, sometimes it goes across 50 or 100 years. That being said, I think there's at least one of the cemeteries that Mr. Thomas looked into, and the closest lineal descendant he could find has not been in his county since 1950. So that's
which one that was?
That is in the Kreigler Cemetery, which we can get to that in more detail. Now, with the Reed Cemetery, two of the graves, we have affidavits of the family that knows that those are their descendants, their ancestors, and are comfortable with them being moved and have agreed to that. But the reason we're here to you all to ask for the whole cemetery to be deemed abandoned is because there are 4 graves in that cemetery that they don't have confirmation that are a family member. So they didn't feel comfortable signing those, is my understanding. So I'll say from a practical sense, at one point there would have been an opportunity for these graves to have been maintained. They have been so abandoned for so long, I don't know when or if that ever stopped. Now, I will say that I believe the state law is that you can never deny someone access to your property to care for a grave.
I think it allows 3 days notice.
Yeah, it's something to that effect. Yeah. So that's again to say, from a practical standpoint, I don't know when tending to these graves stopped and what the particular issues were around that. I just know that they have been, they have been abandoned by the descendants of those people for a very long time.
My question, I guess, would be is if they didn't have access and they wanted access, maybe that is the reason why that. But I mean, it also goes back. I mean, KRS defines that a cemetery on a piece of property is the requirement of the owner to maintain. So the owners, which I know this land has changed hands several times, but the owner has a responsibility as well to maintain cemetery that they know is there. When did the owners know that these cemeteries were there? Is this something new, or is it they've known it for a while?
Mr. Chase, you may be able to speak to when they found these cemeteries. It usually coincides with some sort of survey being done for development purposes, and then you realize these all. A surveyor will come and tell you, did you know that there's a cemetery site there. Sometimes they may know, sometimes they may not. But I would put to you, while the law requires a property owner to maintain a cemetery, I don't think that could be imparted to these particular property owners, because these cemeteries have been abandoned so far, they're so much longer than their ownership. They would, by the time they, I mean, even particularly the Begley property, I think this particular property has been since, 1950, which is one of the last known descendants that we tracked down, has been owned by 3 different families in the county.
I mean, this cemetery, some of these graves are over 200 years old.
Yeah.
So I guess if we abandon these properties, the court decides to do this, is that when the notice will go in the paper, or has that already been done?
So notice has already gone in the paper. It can be done either way. So the law requires that your all's order would say, we deem them abandoned, and after 60 days' notice in the paper has been given, they can be removed. Well, that's already been done, but so we could have come to you first and then advertised, or advertised then come to you. It just has to be advertised for 60 days. And so that has been done, and so that would give anyone with some claim to those cemeteries an opportunity to come forward. But that is really an issue for the state permit, not for you all. Your all's order is not determined on when the notice is given.
Right, I understand that, but I know if we decide to make that order, then things are going to start happening. And that's a concern I have, that we don't have control over at that point. 15 minutes on Find a Grave, I found an ancestor for one of the graves on the Begley property. And people in the paper are not going to see that. I mean, I know these people very well. They're still in this community. They still, they're teachers, they're farmers. Some of these graves, as a matter of fact, the one heir that I found today is her birthday. I mean, I think that's a little ironic. 28th October, 1771. This person was in this country before this country was founded. We were getting ready to celebrate the 250th anniversary of our Constitution. For me personally, I can't speak for this court, but for me personally, I don't want to be digging up a 200-year-old grave on the 250th anniversary of our nation's founding, not to include in 1835, these people were the pioneers of our county. They're the reason we exist, and their families are still here. So, I mean, I'll leave my questions at that, but for me, I can't see disturbing these graves. I think the owners should look into with the Historical Society of Kentucky, and I really feel these should be pioneer graves. They should be marked as such, and the planning should be planned around these graves.
Thank you, Magistrate. I appreciate that, and I don't mean to go counterpoint with you, because that was really well said, and I agree with you to the extent that we know who these graves are. It would be wonderful to give them appropriate demarcation, and that's what will go on here. And I think I'd like to ask Chase to come up and tell a little bit about the work he's done in trying to identify who may be buried in these sites, what their lineage is, because if you look at the notices that in the record that we put, we've identified that we're asking to move, say in the instance of the Kreigler family, 50 unmarked graves. That being said, based on his research, he knows of several of the people who are buried in that cemetery, and he's looked into that and tried to identify their next of kin, because that is actually, if the next of kin could in fact been found, that's the easier way to go to the state, is because you ask for them to sign an affidavit that they will agree. But we're here because they couldn't be found, but we do know several of the people that are here. We just don't know which graves are theirs. And so the idea would be to honor that heritage, reinter the graves in a public cemetery, and to the best you can, either through your work, historical work, through your work dealing with the graves themselves, then give proper demarcation of who these folks may have been and who they are at a public cemetery where their ancestors, where their descendants, if they are still around in this county, as I'm sure they are, then can go at any time. It's always open. They don't have to ask the property owner to get onto the site. So that's where it's an unsettling feeling to talk about moving graves. I get that.
I look at it from a personal perspective. I maintain our family cemetery. I couldn't imagine 200 years from now, somebody coming and digging my grandfather up and moving him somewhere where he intentionally wanted to be. And so it's personal for me because I maintain a cemetery, and I understand that this is our heritage. These are people that founded this county, and they deserve to be left alone, in my opinion.
I understand that, and I won't argue with it.
And for, as far as property rights, I believe in property rights. I believe that landowners should be able to do what they want to on their property, but there are lines that need to be drawn in the sand when it comes to certain things, and I think this is one of them.
And I completely respect you on that. I would just to say to the court, one of the applicants here, they're private they keep a family cemetery as well. And they currently still use it. It's not maintaining an old one. They currently still use it. And I'm sure they would feel the same way if, for whatever reason, a family, whether it's a line dies out, people move away, they lose the means, this is an opportunity then to allow future property owners the use of their land and still respect those individuals that have been buried in these cemeteries. So that's the avenue that we're trying to pursue. That being said, I respect you a lot in your thought process on it.
Where's the Bluegrass Memorial Cemetery?
I think there's some folks here that work with it, but Chase, why don't you come up and give us some.
Judge, members of the court, thank you. Bluegrass Memorial Cemetery is
Chase, if you don't care, just for the record, just say your name, please.
Chase Thomas.
Who you're with.
Oldham Robertson Powell Funeral Home.
Thank you.
Thank you. The cemetery is located here in Madison County. Justin, the exact property location, you're going to be more familiar.
Yes, Justin Woosley with Oldham Robertson Powell. The Bluegrass Memorial Cemetery is located across from the main entrance of the Bluegrass Army Depot. It's where the graves were moved off of the ordinance when it was built in the 40s.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
How many was moved off the ordinance, Justin?
I'm not sure the exact number.
There's a lot of them?
Yeah, there's
800? Dang.
Yeah. Yeah, they actually moved two different, segregated, yeah. Is it Chenault's, it's on Crooksville? Or what's the name? Speedwell. Yeah. All right.
Has the Madison County Historical Society been consulted on this? Because, Sharon Graves, she's got a rich history in studying graves in the county, and I just wonder if she's looked at some of these, some information that Tom's got. There's some historic individuals
Sure.
In some of these graves, and I'd like to get some input from the Historical Society on some of these sites. Is that reasonable?
I think it'd be a question for the team that these property owners have put together to see what kind of research they've done.
Gentlemen,
When you going to
Yeah, no, I'd absolutely be open to meeting with the Historical Society and getting their input and on some of the lineage of the individuals that are currently buried there, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the particular one at Duncan behind Bucky's, is it part of the Ramsey piece of the farm? I know the Begleys bought multiple pieces there, I think maybe from different owners. Was it?
So when I pulled the deed reference that I put into the proposed resolution, so we'd have the correct site, and I don't remember exactly, Judge, but this tract I think was traded between the Chenaults, the Ramseys, and the Begleys, either in direct line or back and forth. So I believe at one point it was part of the Ramsey property.
Did they know it was there? Do you know? Did they not maintain it, or do you know? Did y'all ask those questions?
We don't know. We know that the current property owners didn't know it was there until they discovered it was there. And that, it would be their preference to have it moved. And I don't know, I don't want to speak to this exactly because I don't know what all of their exact plans are. But Mr. Butcher told me, he said it's also their impression that some different uses and zones would be incompatible with having a cemetery maintained next to it. Though again, that's a little bit speculative as to what we're going to end up doing. But all we know is that the current property owners, when they started looking at how, what they've got, they determined that they have, graves that are in some cases 100, 125, up to 200 years old that have been unmaintained.
All right, thank you. Tom, do you have anything?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions, Judge. One of the things that, that I was interested in was what the process of that looks like. And I know you have Mr. Thomas here today, so he could probably answer this for me.
That's going to go past my.
Yeah, pretty quick, as it did mine. But what I'd like to know, Mr. Thomas, is what does the process look like? Because in some of these, let's just use the one that's on the Ramsey that has the 17 identifiable bodies in it, and then the remainder. Just tell me what that looks like. What do you do? How does that work? I want to know how that process works.
You speaking of the process of disinterment?
Yes.
My name's Billy Butcher. I'm also with Oldham Robertson Powell. It would be just like in an established cemetery. So each grave where we think is marked will be done one at a time. No second grave will be, moved on until grave one is done, and so forth. So it'll be an excavation process in where that we believe that grave is.
So I want to know how the excavation process happens. Tell me how that happens. Do you go in there with shovels? Do you go in there with backhoes? Because we're talking about people that's been in the ground for 200 plus years in some cases. 200 years ago, hey, let's face it, they're not going in, they didn't go in the ground in the coffins we go in today. Some may have been in boxes, some may have been in blankets. I mean, we don't know all that. And so I've got a lot of concern about that.
It would be very small equipment, especially just due to the space. I mean, a lot of just random trees throughout where it was, not cared for. So, and then shovels,
And once you find remains, whatever that might look like, what happens to them?
Depends on, I guess, how they're found. So either be in a container suitable for the size of what we have found. And it all depends on what we find. At this point, we cannot know that exactly.
So is that one container per grave?
Per grave, yes, sir.
And then after that happens, what happens?
Then they'll be moved to the new cemetery and one area for each person. Each person will be marked at that new cemetery as well.
In an individual grave size?
Won't be a full grave site, but yes.
So what I'm getting at is there won't be a mass grave for people?
No mass graves, absolutely not.
It'll be an individual grave site?
Yes.
And then do you know what space is available in the Bluegrass Memorial? Because they have struggled over the years. They've contacted me, matter of fact, several times over the years about maintaining that cemetery as a whole, what's available there space-wise.
So I've spoken with Brenda Burton, who's here from Bluegrass Cemetery, and even spoke with her again yesterday. They are confident and comfortable that they have space available. We have agreed prior to performing reinterment that we will, for lack of better terms, we'll probe that area to ensure that there's not already an existing grave there to the best of our abilities to make sure that obviously no one else is disturbed. I believe in my heart, we're trying to preserve some dignity and respect to some people, and I don't want to be counterproductive and disturbing someone else in this process. So we'll probe that area to try and make the determination that there's not already an unmarked grave there. And then in the process of disinterment and reinterment, like Mr. Butcher had said, we start out with small equipment, go a couple of feet, and then we do the majority of that with hand digging with shovel. And you're looking for, as he described, possibly someone that was already buried there. Some indicators will also be color changes in soil. Will help alert you to when you're getting to that depth. So in the process of reinterment at the cemetery, if we encountered any obstacles or issues when probing and in digging, that obviously we would stop and move to a different area.
Would the original headstones be utilized on these? Would they?
So, yes, we spoke with the cemetery there. I feel confident there's quite a few more headstones that possibly have some writing on them that can better help us identify who's there. At this point, I've been out to the property several times. I'm not comfortable moving or cleaning those stones. I want to wait until I get what I consider the authority to do that. Again, I see this to be sacred, and I don't want to disturb anything that I shouldn't be until I'm able to do this appropriately. So I think that we can maybe identify some more of these stones if we have the ability to get in there and do some cleaning on them, which we obviously would do. I would love nothing more than to take those original stones out to Bluegrass Cemetery, and when they're reinterred, have their original stone placed upon their grave.
Since we have folks here from the cemetery, do y'all have anything you'd like to say? I'd like to hear from you.
Thank you all very much.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Thomas, I appreciate that.
Yep. Brenda, if you don't mind, just state your name.
Sure, I'm
For
Brenda
the record.
Burton, and I'm not only the Stuart Davidson had to resign as the president, and so now I'm the president of the Friends of the Bluegrass Memorial Cemetery. I'm also the fifth great daughter of John Reed and Mary Polly Reed. So I have a lot of investment in making sure that this is handled properly. I apologize if I go on, but I'm probably going to. John Reed was fought in the Revolutionary War. He was a signer of the Albemarle Declaration of Independence, which is a declaration of independence that was signed prior to our own National Declaration of Independence. He was one of the early settlers of this area. He was friends with Daniel Boone. So he's, to me, a very important historical figure. He was also a slave owner, and it is very possible that some of the people that he is buried there with on his farm, he and his wife are buried there. It's very possible that some of the people that are also buried there were enslaved people or were other descendants or other ancestors of mine. We just have no way of knowing. So it's important to me that's handled properly. Currently, the cemetery is covered with debris, old tires. It looks like somebody took a stone and threw it against a tree. It's in terrible, terrible shape. And so something needs to be done to respect my ancestors. And I just found out about the grave. I did genealogy with my dad, and I just found out about the grave a few years ago when we stumbled on an article in the paper where the Historical Society had actually put an injunction against the prior owners, telling them not to bulldoze the property, to bulldoze that cemetery. Excuse me. So the Bluegrass Memorial Cemetery was created during the time of World War II when they were establishing the Army Depot. And there were 150 farms that were displaced at that time, and there were 39 cemeteries that were removed, and all those people were reinterred in either Bluegrass or Speedwell Cemetery, and they were segregated at the time. So I have got actually 14 ancestors, including John Reed's son, my fourth great-grandfather and grandmother, buried at that cemetery. So that's where my investment comes. I live in Indiana, so it's important. That's how important it is to me to take care of these and make sure that we have something that's sustained, that is sustained. The property currently is unowned. It was a failed trust, and our group has just voluntarily started to maintain and reclaim the land. We've reclaimed about half of the Bluegrass Cemetery, but there's still about 400 graves that are covered in overbrush. So that's where we are right now.
So what would be your request for this Reed Cemetery, being a descendant? Would you?
It can't go on like it is. I mean, I myself have gone up there and tried to clean it out, and so I could have access at least to the stones. It's just an impossible situation. It's in really bad shape. I don't see any. It would take a lot to make. I mean, of course, I'd rather them not be disturbed, but it would take a lot to get that cemetery up to some place that was visitable, and also sustain that for the next 50, 100 years too. So it's a complicated issue.
Thank you.
Brenda, with the Friends of Bluegrass Memorial, have you all established like a nonprofit?
Yes.
You have, okay.
Yes, we're a nonprofit, and we're talking right now to try and figure out something to do with ownership, because it is an issue. And I understand the county, that when Stuart was talking, the county doesn't really want to take responsibility for it, and so the Army Depot doesn't want to take responsibility for it. So we're trying to figure out what we need to do to do this care ongoing.
Somewhere 10 or 11 years ago, I got in a little trouble as a new county judge because, I was told that, it kind of was county, but, I don't know if you remember that, Tom.
I remember it.
We sent the road department out there, Scott. You remember that, to
Stuart told me. Yeah.
to clean it up, and I got scolded because it was not public,
Yeah.
right? We did not, we could not do that. And so,
This Combs wouldn't scold you, though. This Combs.
no, that Combs. yeah.
The other Combs is going.
It was his uncle that scolded me. Yeah. We grew to love each other, though. God rest his soul.
Yeah, it's a complicated issue because
very
nobody's
much so.
taken responsibility for it. So that's why we are.
Yep.
So another question for you, and I guess maybe it's Mr. Thomas too, is why and what decision was made to move the individuals to a cemetery where they're already struggling for the upkeep on it? Why not Memorial Gardens or Richmond Cemetery or someplace where the graves will be kept up?
So in starting this process is when I am not from Madison County. I live in Versailles, so I was not completely familiar with the area. But in starting this process is when I was turned on to some of the activities with the Historic Society through Justin, and then had learned about the Bluegrass Memorial Cemetery, and had reached out to them asking if they had the space or the willingness to help us with reinterment. And speaking with Ms. Burton, she made it clear that they've had some struggles, not recently, for a while, with maintaining that cemetery, and that's something that they have actively been working on. But knowing why that land was initially used in reinterring some graves, I felt that was appropriate. I certainly hope I'm not speaking out of line, either Ms. Burton with you or Mr. Butcher, so I'll leave the specifics. But I've, in support of their efforts, the funeral home has decided to help out with some of that, ongoing support that's needed there to help maintain that cemetery, which I believe is the right thing to do.
What does that look like? I'm curious. The support. What support would be available?
I'm speaking in the terms of we're on an annual aspect, donating some funds to help with the upkeep of the cemetery. I'm sorry.
Master Bachman, if I could offer to you too, we're hopeful that trying to give the court some thought about where the graves would go would show that some intention as part of this project and give you some comfort. That piece of the final permitting is part of the state permitting issue of where they will go. And so while that's not part of the abandonment analysis, we wanted to give you that was the intention so that you would have as much comfort as possible that this had been thought through in such a way. And so I think with a local funeral home helping with the newly formed nonprofit in a cemetery that was really designed for public reinterment, that hopefully it would help that project too, but it would certainly be the best place to respect these people if that worked out with this organization.
Yeah. One thing, Tom, I just want to make sure too that I want to make sure that we as a court, kind of stay focused too on what our job is. And I'm really kind of asking this to Preston just to clarify, is I know that we all want to make sure that these individuals that were founders, that were frontiersmen, women, that they're put in an appropriate place. But our job as a fiscal court, and this is a question, is the acknowledgement. We're the governing body that acknowledges that, yes, and agree that these 3 cemeteries are abandoned.
That's correct.
I mean, we can be curious and we can want and to make sure that the disinterment and the interment is all handled properly, but we're not actually voting on that piece of it to what you said earlier, because that piece of it is approved by a state agency. Is that correct?
That's correct. So after this process, if you all, pass this resolution that says that the property is, or the cemetery is abandoned, they will then take that order and attach it as part of a permit application to the state's Department of Vital Statistics. And in that, they have to give all the information that they currently know, and then we'll have to follow up with all the information that they learn and where those graves will go. So that process will all be handled at the state level. The statute simply says that to start that process, the fiscal court has to order that it is in fact abandoned, and the statute gives you the specific parameters so that you all don't have to make that discretionary decision just on your own. You have the statutory parameters that had it been unattended for at least 10 years to the property owner's knowledge and no one come forward to say otherwise, then you all, that is how you all would deem it abandoned. And so I appreciate that, Judge, because being a kind of an issue that you don't handle often, an obviously sensitive issue, and I hope you all feel that to everyone involved, it's something that we've not taken lightly. We've tried to give as much information as possible, not by way of giving you more to consider, but by giving you more comfort and understanding that this is going to be done the right way. But yes, Judge, the statute, the jurisdiction before the fiscal court is it abandoned or is it not?
And I know we haven't gotten into reading resolutions, but I'm just going to read this part of the resolution because it brings up a question to me. Is that one of the resolutions talks about pursuant to the KRS, Madison County Fiscal Court hereby orders that the 6 graves, 2 marked, 4 unmarked, here and above mentioned may be permanently removed and relocated. So it's it's somebody else's decision.
Correct.
To see whether that happens or not. But my question is that, and Ms. Brenda, I'm sorry, I don't know your last name. I know you're not a Reed anymore, but she was talking about how that they know of some that are maybe there, they just don't know. So what happens 6 graves in total. What happens when you all get to the 6th one? Or you just say, okay, I'm done? Do you all take a bigger perimeter? Do you all go out and do you keep sort of going out so many feet from those that you find so that you?
Yes, we will do some exploratory digging, especially on where we have found are the outermost part of where the graves are located. Then we'll do a little bit of exploratory and outward. A lot of that's just going to be based off of when we start with our first grave. We're going to obviously work inward, whether you want to call it left to right or right to left. And then the outermost graves that we do get to, we'll continue to dig outward. Do I have an exact measurement? I don't. I know all the ones right now that we are looking at disinterring are all relatively close. So would I expect that there would be additional graves 15 or 20 feet outward? I would not expect to find anything like that, especially considering that these areas are sectioned off by large overgrowth and trees. Bordering these cemeteries are what, at one point, I don't know whether they would have been cow pastures or some sort of crop field. So I don't expect to find anything obviously in there. But are we going to, where we know known graves are, we're going to dig, and then any remnants or evidence that we find there could potentially be more graves. Absolutely. I don't see that there's any effectiveness to those, leaving those or abandoning those. That's.
Have you done much of have you relocated many graves of this age?
Of this age, no, sir. And that's
You
why I
don't really
like,
know what you're gonna find.
Yeah, and you don't. And that's what Mr. Butcher spoke to when you were asking about the process. And it's because we don't know. I know through research what I presume or think that we may find, but again, that's just being presumptive because you really just don't know until you start the process.
Donna, you got anything to say?
While she's coming up, I would just add to the number of graves. Mr. Thomas has done a lot of research of the records of those cemeteries to try to, and that's why he has a general sense of how many graves are in each one, either because of the markings or because of the records as to who we believe may have been buried there.
Did y'all just have a high school reunion?
Yes. Yeah, she missed it though.
Yes,
Oh.
I missed it. I was out of town.
Yeah.
Good morning. I'm Donna Kavanaugh. I am a member of the Historical Society. I'm also a member of the Friends of Maple Grove, and I'm also a friend of the Bluegrass Cemetery and Speedville Cemetery. I'm on all three of their boards. I understand the need may be to move the cemeteries, but I think that there has to be some consideration in how it's done and why. If it could stay there, please do. Those people were buried there 200 years ago for a reason. Now, when you look at John Reed Cemetery, and you all said that it was explored and everything, John Reed was also in the military, but he was also a slave owner. Now, I don't know if it's reached anybody of the African-American descent at all, because the only place I've seen it is in the newspaper, and that's because I read the newspaper, but most people do not. So I'm going to ask that you all consider placing it someplace else, like even on Facebook. Historical Society put it in their newsletter, different places in the future. Now, I know this may not be able to work right now, but in the future, you may be able to do this. I think we need to publicize it more. Also, the Reed name would have changed from R-E-I-D to R-E-E-D for African Americans by this time. And we do have some Reeds that are born, raised in Madison County that are here. Hockadays are also an ancestral name in Madison County in the African American community also. Even out on Duncannon. Duncannon had a large population of African Americans out there. And to speak to what he was saying also too, when you go look at a cemetery, and I've had the experience of doing it several times, I've even walked the bluegrass out here across from the ordinance and the one out at Speedville. The cemetery you see in front of Speedville is a new cemetery, and they are still burying in there if they have a space. The back of the cemetery is where the Bluegrass Ordinance people were buried. And it's all grown up, and weeds have covered it. But when the snakes are not out, I have been back there. And what I want to say is there is about 17 rows back there, and there's nothing bigger than a shoebox. And at the end of each row, there's a plaque that says certain things, and you can match it back to the cemeteries when they were moved off in the Bluegrass Ordinance. But they're only small little boxes, no individual name. There is only one name back there. And believe it or not, it's Baby Blythe. Our mayor has a lot of relatives that was buried on the Bluegrass Ordinance and was moved out. They were segregated, and the upkeep has been very different in between them, and they were treated very differently when they were reinterred and moved off those grounds. What I want to say is, when you look at those cemeteries, and she's found 4, maybe 6, there had to have been some slaves that died at some point or other. Now, in some spaces, they say it's to the east of the cemetery when the sun comes up. So there may be some unmarked, unnamed graves there. Because I have looked at the research for the Reed family, and for at least 16 years, they owned slaves, at least 16. So somebody had to have died during that period of time. Now, a lot of the burials of African Americans were put outside of the cemetery. Some of them were placed inside of them. Some of them was buried to the east of the cemetery. And all you're going to find is your fieldstone. No name was put on it, and that fieldstone has sunk down into the ground by now. I can tell you that right now. So I do implore them to please search further than a few feet from where they're at, because we find them. If we went to Richmond Cemetery, the same thing happened. When the African Americans came back from the Civil War, if they died, the train track ran right down the side of it. Those bodies were taken off of those trains, and they were buried right there in the Richmond Cemetery. And they were in unmarked graves there also. A lot of people do not even know where that graveyard is now, because the line has been moved, the railroad track has been moved. But once again, there is African Americans back there with unmarked graves. So please don't leave those people back there just because you can't find a stone or a rock. I think that if they are going to move these graves, it does need to be done with dignity. I think someone from the Historical Society or somebody from the Bluegrass, Friends of Bluegrass should be there to see how it is done and the respect is done. Because we know for a fact, it was a man named Hogg from Indiana that separated those graves and brought them over to those 2 cemeteries. And it was done very differently. And a lot of the family could not find their loved ones, from what I am told down through history. They could not find their families afterwards when they got to Speedville, because there was no rock. They didn't know if that was really their person, and then only a small box of them was bought. Now, true, that may be all they find. But if they find buttons or pins or a hat or whatever's left in there, that's what they're going to scoop up and carry with them. And I appreciate that, and the family would appreciate it. But I think in the future, we need to find a better way to advertise the removal and the reinterments of cemeteries. We get calls at least every 2 weeks about somebody wanting to find a cemetery. You might want to put a notice at the tourism, because families come in there looking for their families' plots and everything else. You might want to have it also sent to our records office. County clerk's office too, because people come in down there and they want to know, and they find out where the property is, but they don't know there's a cemetery on there. My grandmother and great-grandfather and everything are buried on a property that is not even marked as a cemetery. And some people don't even know that they have a cemetery on their grave, on those, the land when they buy it. Some property lands do tell them that they do have a cemetery on there. So I just want to thank you for your time, though.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Question?
Thank you.
Mr. Davis, would you like to say something? Yeah, well, if you have any knowledge that you could share with us, we'd like to hear it.
My name's Jim Davis. I'm a retired, semi-retired funeral director. And I was asked by Stuart Davidson to serve on the Friends of the Bluegrass Cemetery Board. As has been stated, the Friends do not own that property. It's in a failed trust. God only knows where that is legally. But our job has been, well, Stuart Davidson lived in Battlefield, and he was coming into Richmond one day on 421 and saw this obelisk sticking up. And he was, what in the world is that? And one day he pulled in there, and it was a cemetery, grown up. The only thing you could see was the top of that obelisk. And he thought, that's not right. Something needs to be done. So he contacted a group of people to help clean that cemetery up. And that's pretty much what we've done. And as has been stated, the two cemeteries were formed when the Bluegrass Army Depot was started. And the Speedville Cemetery and the, as we call it, Cemetery A, I guess. So they're both in need of excuse me, some repair and upkeep. And that's what we've tried to do. It's been done through volunteers, Boy Scout groups, church groups, families, donated money to pay people to mow. And I guess that's my main concern is to keep up what Mr. Davidson started and keeping these cemeteries presentable and a place of dignity. And of course, it takes money to do that. And I guess that's what I'm most interested in is money to help keep these things in good shape. I do want to see if you do abandon these cemeteries, which I have reservations about, but that's a different story. That it is done with dignity, and that each individual grave is put in an individual container and put in an individual grave of their own, because they weren't mass burials. They need to be individually disinterred, individually recasketed or contained or whatever, and then individually buried. And that's my comment. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
I know, Judge, that it's not our decision on who gets moved to, well, it's our decision. I guess we're a piece of the puzzle that says ultimately in Frankfurt that they'll move people to a cemetery. I just don't understand why that you would move people from a cemetery to a cemetery that's in disarray to begin with. I got a real problem with that. You know, as you stand on, to your point, Mr. Davis, when you stand on the cemetery grounds, and I don't know who went out there and cleaned those grounds up. Anybody here have a dog in that fight? Somebody went out there and cleaned up the grounds out on the cemetery behind Buc-ee's. Mr. Thomas, you've done an amazing job out there. Thank you for that. If there were relatives here, I'm sure they'd come up and thank you, because that really helped us, walked every bit of it. But to go along with Mr. Worley was saying earlier, and to your point, Judge, on what our responsibility is, as I have sit up here for 11 years now, so I've sit up here for 11 years, our decisions ultimately come down to what's legal. What does a 1966 law say that we should do as a fiscal court? We take that in consideration. I can tell you that during my 11 years up here, I've asked 3 questions to everything. I don't care what it is. 3 questions to everything. Is it legal? Is it moral? Is it ethical? if the answer is no to any one of them, you can stop what you're doing as far as I'm concerned. So, does the legal blocks get chessed, Mr. Worley? Yes. Everything else I got a real issue with. That's my take on it.
I'd like to let this soak for about a month, and anybody else wants to give some input, like more from the Historical Society, and let this, it'll wait a few weeks on it.
It sure can, but I would like to, if that's the choice of the fiscal court, that we need more, we need more engagement, to Ms. Kavanaugh's point of, making sure that other methods of advertising. I mean, I would like, let's task the group with something. Let's not just say, hey, let's sit on it, right? Let's give them some action items to go out and chase down so that can be brought back to us the next one, because we've done that before, Master Hughes. And when we leave this meeting and we move on to the next topic, then we look back up in a month and nobody was tasked with anything, right? So I think with the team that's been put together by the owners, if we have some requests for them, let's give them some action items. If we think, I know Justin is a good friend of the Historical Society. I mean, there's a lot of great work that group does in volunteering, just as well as the Friends of Bluegrass Memorial. So what are those things that you all may need to be able to help you make a decision, and let's sort of throw those out.
What are the other options for where to inter these bodies if this cemetery has not been able to be maintained? What would be some other options of where they might be placed? That'd be one thing.
And I'd like to know from the historical folks if there is a process that they incur on these type of cemeteries where that they would, is there something that they identify? Can they put a mark on and say, hey, this Pioneer Cemetery, we're not moving that? I'd like to know what their standpoint is on it. And do they have a legal grounds for that?
Yeah, again, and again, this has been a great conversation. This is new waters for us. But again, I just want to make sure that we're following the authority that we have as a fiscal court, and we're, not stepping out of bounds. What I hear so far is going and doing just a little bit more. I don't necessarily feel like that. I know our counselor loves to call me out when I'm stepping over a line, and she's been very nice and smiling over there. So
thank you for letting you tell.
Yeah, so,
I'm sure you
but I just want to handle this, obviously, with care, with dignity. I mean, I think all parties here, I think we're all on the same page, which is sometimes very unusual, making sure that we do the right thing.
I think for me, I want to see a descendant say this needs to be moved, and I would prefer that. And in case where you recognize that this is not a suitable location for your descendant, and you're okay with moving them, that would help me on the other two as well, to have a descendant say, I'm okay with that. That's the hang up that I have on this. I can't speak for their family. I mean, I can speak for mine and what I would want, but I want to honor the descendants of these folks.
I appreciate you making those comments, Brian. So that's the Reed Cemetery. So is it true that the other two, we can't really find a descendant? And that's kind of been
that's the case for the Hockaday and Kreigler cemeteries. Right. We could not find a descendant, whereas we were able to for the Reed Cemetery. And
I've got the contact here for you for the Hockaday if you want it.
So
absolutely.
So with that, and let's talk about the Reed Cemetery. Since we do have that, I mean, do we want to go ahead and do the Reed Cemetery? I mean, there are three different resolutions. Since we did have that today,
That satisfies
Do we
my
feel-
concern. I'm not sure if it,
Do we feel as a court that we would be ready to go ahead and act on that one? And with the others, the other two cemeteries, let's maybe give some action items? How do you all feel about that?
I would make a motion on that particular one, which is the first one on
It
the
is.
list.
Mhm.
I would make a motion to,
The Reed Cemetery is the
it's-
one that's
It's
on,
at 6.
on 52, is that correct?
That's right.
Hockaday is the largest one.
Yeah. The
I think
Hockaday
52, or
and
the
Craigler
52,
are the big
the one
property.
between Sperling and Dodge, it has only 6 graves that we know about,
And-
right?
And 2 identified and family members acknowledged.
Yeah, yeah, 4 unmarked.
Yeah. Though, based on some of the comments made, you would assume are either family members or may have been, or may have been slaves or
Counselor,
friends.
probably the appropriate thing to do, since there are 3 different resolutions, is we need to read them and handle them all 3 separately. And so if we want to table the other 2, why don't we do it that way? I feel like that'll be cleaner. Kenny?
You got a motion right now on the first.
Well, we can't have a motion because we haven't read it yet.
I said I would make the motion.
He would make the motion. We can't have a motion on something we've not read,
Okay.
so. It's been discussion on it.
All right, but yeah, that.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna get order back in here. So I'm gonna go ahead and read Resolution 2025-100, which is the next resolution on our agenda. It's the petition for grave removal and reinterment on the John Reed Cemetery. A resolution pursuant to KRS 381.755 and 901 KAR 5090, authorizing the removal and relocation of graves in an abandoned cemetery located upon property known as John Reed Cemetery, located 100 yards north of the old Madison County Fairgrounds Arena, situated in the northeast intersection of EKU Bypass and US 52 Irvin Road, owned by Spangler Apartments LLC, a Kentucky limited liability company, and Richmond Development Company LLC, a Kentucky limited liability company. Whereas a certain tract of land located within the confines of Madison County, Kentucky, and further described in Exhibit A, hereto contains 2 marked and 4 unmarked graves which have been abandoned. And whereas Spangler Apartments LLC, a Kentucky limited liability company, and Richmond Development Company LLC, a Kentucky limited liability company, as current and/or former owner of the property, have requested pursuant to KRS 381.755 subsection 1 that the Madison County Fiscal Court issue a resolution authorizing permanent removal and relocation of subject graves, if any. And whereas the abandoned graves shall be permanently relocated at a suitable place at the expense of the property owner as provided by KRS, 381.755 subsection 4, and pursuant to the procedure set forth by the Kentucky Administrative Regulations 901 KAR 5090, section 3. Now therefore be it resolved by the Madison County Fiscal Court, section 1, that pursuant to KRS 381.755, the Madison County Fiscal Court hereby orders that the 6 graves, 2 marked and 4 unmarked herein above mentioned, may be permanently removed and relocated as A, 60 days have expired since notice of the said intended action was first published in the Richmond Register on March 22nd, 2025 through April 26, 2025. The graves are abandoned as unattended for a period of 10 years preceding the date of this resolution. Section 2, that this resolution shall become effective on the date of its passage, passed by the Madison County Fiscal Court, 28th day of October, 2025. Members of the court, you've heard Resolution 2025-100. What is the pleasure of the court?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2025-100. Any more conversation? Any discussion? Hearing none, call the roll. Clerk Barger.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Hughes?
Yes.
Master Botkin?
Based on the testimony from a descendant, yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes.
And Judge, if I could, not to interrupt the proceedings, but also feeling the direction of the court and the court's desires here. I know you've kind of already talked about this, but I've talked to the funeral directors, and we would just actually request that you table these two next ones, and appreciate all of the guidance and response, and we'll do everything we can to bring back what we can. And if we can't, you'll understand that it's just not out there. But we'll do the best that we can with that. So I'll let you get to your procedure, but tell everybody thanks for their discussion, and we'll come back and talk more. So,
thank you. Thank you very much. So would it be okay then if we don't read these then today? We don't have to read these. And so when you table them, I think there's some rules that you have to bring it back to the next meeting. And so if we don't have enough time.
You don't have an approved agenda. This body didn't approve this agenda, and this is what we're going to talk about today.
It's not a special meeting, so
So, yes, so anytime you can
So
move around this agenda.
I would rather us
Yeah,
just.
because you're right, if you table it, you've got to say,
And
we're going to hear this again in so
And
and so time.
if you don't, it dies. So I would rather us just to skip over the next two resolutions. It's on the record, we all agree, and we'll just move on to the item number 10, okay?
Good.
And item number 10, thank you all very much. I appreciate the discussion. This is how public and private government and its citizens, this is how it's supposed to work. Thank you.
Good to see you, Donna.
Hey,
The
and,
decades have been good to you.
and Donna, real quick, is Buddy Kavanaugh in Ken? Is he? Yeah. Kavanaugh's, yeah. But Buddy's, you're older than me, but we went to middle school together, and so I haven't seen him in a long time, but.
Steve sung for us the other night. Did he? He sung so pretty.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, thank you so much. Okay, let me, Resolution 2025-103, it's the FEMA DR 4864 Public Assistance Grant MOA. Chief.
Resolution 2025-103, a resolution approving the execution of memorandum of agreement MOA between the Commonwealth of Kentucky Department of Military Affairs, Division of Emergency Management, and various second-party subrecipients of DR-4864. Whereas this MOU is entered into by and between the Commonwealth of Kentucky Department of Military Affairs, Division of Emergency Management, the Commonwealth, and various second-party subrecipients of DR-4864, the contractor, to establish an agreement for implementing a federal program for the sole benefit of the parties in the United States government, specifically DR-4864, a federal emergency management agency, public assistance program, grant authorized by Catalog of Federal Domestic Assistance 97.036 to be administered by the Commonwealth, and whereas this MOU is effective April 24, 2025 through June 30th, 2034. Now therefore it be resolved that the Fiscal Court does hereby approve this resolution, authorize the judge executive and/or his designee to negotiate and executive contracts on behalf of the county.
Thank you, Chief. Members of the court, you've heard Resolution 2025-103. What's the pleasure of the court, please?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Clerk Barger, call the roll.
Master Hughes?
Yes.
Master Bakken?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Thank you all.
Yes. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. All right, next is Resolution 2025-104. Jill.
This is a resolution for the appointment of the Madison County Fiscal Court to the Southern Madison Water District Board. Whereas Madison County Fiscal Court is responsible for the appointment of Southern Madison Water District Board members. And whereas the Southern Madison Water District Board has a vacant board member position. And whereas the Madison County Fiscal Court has found Kevin Fields fit for the position as board member of the Southern Madison Water District Board. Now therefore be it resolved that the Fiscal Court does hereby approve this resolution and authorizes the judge executive and/or his designee to execute the same on behalf of the county.
Thank you.
Motion approved Resolution 2025-104, Judge.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Fields, thank you for being here today. You'll be a great addition to that board. We appreciate your service to the county in advance.
And man, I'm sorry, I put you on the wrong agenda back there. I appreciate you sitting and learning.
Have you enjoyed the show today? Yes, sir. Oh, good.
But appreciate you in this, sir. Look forward to you being on there, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin, for serving. We appreciate I know it takes time out of your schedule, but we appreciate you serving.
And as soon as the vote's over, I'll get Jill to talk to you about the next steps, okay? All right, so we do have a motion second to approve Kevin as our new board member of Southern Madison Water District. Any more discussion? Hearing none, call the roll. Clerk Barger.
Barrister Bakken?
Yes.
Barrister Combs?
Yes.
Barrister Hughes?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. My boy Scott, Resolution 2025-105.
Save the best for last.
That's right.
A resolution for Madison County Fiscal Court to adopt roadways for county maintenance. Whereas Madison County Fiscal Court would like to adopt the following roadways, including streets, drainage, infrastructure, and existing sidewalks for county maintenance. And whereas the roads are described as follows: Dove's Landing subdivision, Olive Branch Drive, 233 feet by 32 feet. That includes both turn lanes, and 1,932 feet by 20 feet. Second, Silas Way, 288 feet by 20 feet wide. Third, Lily Court, 336 feet by 20 feet wide. Fourth, Riker Court, 364 feet by 20 feet wide. Fifth, Purity Way, 452 feet by 20 feet wide. Sixth, Divine Drive, 740 feet by 20 feet wide. And seventh, Bentley Way, 540 feet by 20 feet wide. Whereas these roads have been inspected by the Madison County Road Supervisor and are recommended for adoption. Now therefore be it resolved that the Fiscal Court does hereby approve this resolution and authorizes the judge's executive and or his designee to execute the same on behalf of the county.
Thank you, Scott. Members of the court, you've heard Resolution 2025-015. Can I get a motion and second for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion?
If he says they're good, they're good.
Absolutely, they are. The only thing I will make, Robin, we got a little bit of there's just one little letter typo. And so before we actually officially sign this and send it to Kenny, we'll need to make it on Riker Court. There's a Y instead of the T on court. So just FYI. All right. Anyone else? Call the roll.
Barrister Combs?
Yes.
Barrister Hughes?
Yes.
Barrister Bakken?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Scott, appreciate you. Appreciate all you do. And before we get into this next discussion item, I need a recess. I'm sorry. So let's take a quick recess.
All in favor?
All right, thank you all. Appreciate everybody's patience here. It's been a long fiscal court meeting today, and we've had quite a bit on the agenda. We're going to move on to our next topic here, and I just wanted to have some discussion with the court members to get some direction. If you all remember, I believe it was last session that Senate Bill 63 was approved by the legislature allowing street legal special purpose vehicles. I didn't really, when it came out, through our Kentucky Association of Counties, they sent out a lot of information about that and what it looked like for us as governing bodies at the local level. I didn't really think that we would ever really have much to do with this, just for a simple fact that, we're not a Harlan County or, down in the mountains where there is a lot of ATV rides and things like that. Having some conversations back then with our clerk and with our sheriff, just trying to prepare for what this would look like for us. It's never really been an issue. We have some parts of our county that people go and ride, especially down around the Poozy area, some of the Newbie, Baldwin, Valley View. I'm sure down Bryan in some of your area down in Red Lick that there's some of those trails that happen. But it's never really been like a big issue that I was ever aware of, they ever brought to my attention. But I have been getting quite a few emails. We've had phone conversations with citizens that have called the office asking if the fiscal court was ever going to take this up. And so I felt like that we'd gotten enough interest and calls over probably the last 2 months, 3 months, that it probably warranted us having some discussion as a whole court sort of group, right? Want to involve Scott from a standpoint of our roads, and if there's any kind of, what's the pros and cons? What does it entail if this is something that we approve? I know it involves the Sheriff's Department from an approval standpoint based on the KRS with certifying these vehicles, which the Sheriff's Department already certifies out-of-state vehicles before they can be licensed in the state. And so I'm sure that his office and his team is already pretty familiar with that. I think there's a piece of this with the clerk, Kenny, and I'll let you kind of really talk more about that, but you license those. I know in the big PowerPoint that KCO created about it, talked about that you would issue those multi-purpose special use vehicles, motorcycle licenses.
Well, it's a motorcycle size plate.
Size plate,
It's
okay.
a special purpose, whatever
Special
the
purpose.
acronym is.
Okay.
Yeah, and once they're approved, they have to be inspected by the sheriff, not just like out-of-state vehicles, they're pretty much inspecting the VIN number. These have to, there's a whole, and this is the PowerPoint that clerks use, so if there's a lot of information on there, I won't force you to listen to me read it to you like I had it read to me.
Yeah.
But what they are and what's required, I mean, it's headlights, it's a
right.
long list
Yeah.
of things that you can't just decide one day, well, I'm gonna go down and get a plate.
Right.
You've got to meet the criteria to make that vehicle safe on the road. The one that's, back it up out here, Chris. The one that's, people have really pushed for around here is these mini trucks. I thought we'd see more of those than anything else, but we haven't. But the requirements are on there, then the requirements of where you can and cannot operate these is also on this list if you got any questions. And we can shoot that out there by too, along with Keiko's presentation. So we've been licensing these already. I guess what I was going to say, we've been licensing these already because people take these to other counties and drive them. And this, I believe the spirit of this statute or this law was to try to create more tourism in those counties with the big, Laurel County, Harlan County, those areas, so that they could go from that park to a restaurant or a local country store and that kind of thing, and make it a bigger operation than what it really is.
Yeah, the bill sponsor, I mean, he's a great senator, Laurel County. I'm not sure exactly how many counties that Senator Brandon Storm represents, but he represents that area. I mean, he was the bill sponsor of this, and so it totally makes sense down there because you do have a lot more ATV riding and trails and things like that.
But the one thing that I think we heard in our office that hampered people from licensing these was the insurance. And it's not just like but like insuring my vehicle. It's full-blown liability insurance, just like you would carry on a motorcycle, which can be, pretty expensive for what time you would use it.
Yeah. There's a lot of requirements, to Kenny's point. There's only certain roads, that it spells out on here that you're actually allowed to be on. If we act on this, this is just the unincorporated limits of the county. Cities, it spells out in the law that cities must act on their own, if they want this inside the city limits.
And this is not golf carts.
It is not. KRS 186.077 is equipment requirements, section 1, subsection C, subsection 1. It's got to have one or more headlamps, one or more tail lamps, one or more brake lamps, trail lamp and other lamp constructed and placed to illuminate the registration plate with a white light, one or more red reflectors on the rear of the vehicle, amber or red electrical signals on the rear of the vehicle, brake system other than a parking brake. I mean, it goes on and on. It has to have a horn, it has to have a working muffler, rear view mirrors on the right and left side of the driver, a windshield. One of the things as I was reviewing this PowerPoint, there's a piece of this that gives me a little bit of concern just from our regular vehicle traffic. If we open this up, obviously countywide, there's a lot of areas in our county that people aren't used to people driving those vehicles on the roadways. Does that cause a safety concern of any kind? And I'm not saying it does or it doesn't. I'm just saying that's what, reading some of this, that's what my wheels were spinning. And so, I want us to make sure, and I need some direction of how the fiscal court would like us to go through this. There was one other thing that,
Judge, if I can say
Yes.
one thing too.
Yes, ma'am.
The one thing additional for the sheriff's department to keep in mind is the enforcement of this. This does not give everybody a free pass to operate these vehicles on the roadways. In addition to the limit of what roadways you can operate on, there are some specific limitations, like I think there's some language in there that states that if it has a paved center line, you can only operate for 20 miles.
Right.
So I'm not really sure how the sheriff's going to enforce when the neighbors are all yelling that they're going more down and fast or back and forth. I mean, that's something, the sheriff's department will have to deal with from that aspect, but in that, the enforcement side, the language is a little questionable, not so much the regulation and certification side, right?
Yep.
I think there's additional language. The mini trucks can't operate on any highway built from federal programming, different things like that. So that will cause probably some dispute amongst people on the roadways, depending on where they want, who wants them and who doesn't.
And it's some confusion too, because what I always tell people at our counter is you're responsible to know, the citizen is responsible to know the speed limit on the street, highway, whatever that you're driving on. That means when you decide to do this, you're responsible for all this.
Yeah, I mean, ignorance of the law does not prevent you
No,
from
ma'am.
being exempt from the law, so.
If I can interject.
Absolutely, sure.
At the sheriff's conference, when they discussed this new law, we discussed a lot of different laws, and you're exactly right. It's going to be complex, and it's going to be overwhelming. Madison County right now, we have, and I'm neutral in this. I used to be one way, but I'm neutral. We have a lot of accidents. We have a lot of people that do illegal things right now where they get out and get out on the roadways. And, we've had numerous accidents from some of this activity. Now, one thing I want this fiscal court to know is that it's like having a boat. If it's not legal here in Madison County and it's legal in Laurel County, they can take that to Laurel County and ride it, all their restrictions they have or whatever, they're good to go there. But it's like having a boat, you know, you can have a boat, but you may have to go to Cumberland Lake or Green River. It's not that you're gonna put it in here in Madison County. So, but it used to be like on four-wheelers that, you know, you could travel, if you owned a farm, you could go 2/10 of a mile from one gate to the other gate. Now, this is gonna allow people riding them. And it's not golf carts like Kenny said, but it's ATVs and UTVs and those type things. It's going to be hard to enforce.
Four-wheelers?
ATVs, UTVs.
But I think if it is four-wheelers, I mean, what I've read in this, it doesn't really specifically use the word four-wheeler, but it has to have a windshield, where you got to wear goggles.
And you have to have a roll bar.
You got to have a roll bar.
You got to have
or a roll
everything
cage.
the same as a vehicle.
It'd
Turn
be tough to do a
signals.
four.
Yeah.
But we still have problem with four-wheelers out on the roadways.
I guess my concern is if you don't act and everybody looks at the other state laws or county laws and misinterprets it, says, well, it's okay here. I mean, I think already we've seen, I know down around my area, I've seen UTVs on the road, and I know they're not legally allowed to be there. I mean, I feel like the public feels like they're okay because of this law passed. And I think there needs to be some clarification, you know, whether we decide to do it or not.
You know, Brian, there was I cannot find it. I'm trying to look for it. And, but I think there was something I read in here that talked about maybe even setting it up in districts. And I didn't know, and I wanted to ask Jenny you the question to see if that meant, like, could you say that there's certain areas where it's known riding, of people riding, that you could designate those areas that it's potentially, you know, okay. You know, I think right now all the time a Jigwater Road and people down there that connects you to Poozy, Newby, Valley. I mean, you can.
Well, even Garrett County.
You can go to Garrett County. But a lot of people drive up, you know, if you go out on a Saturday and have a sandwich at Newby Country Store, I mean, there's a very good chance you'll see a side-by-side sitting on the road and they're in there having a sandwich and a pop too, you know, so.
It's in the sample ordinance that Keiko sent out that you can designate.
Yeah, I have to re-look at the actual statute, though,
Which-
because I don't remember that off the top of my head. However, it does allow, as most statutes have been here recently, if the local body opts in and passes the ordinance, you can do so, and you can do so in a more restrictive manner than the limitations set by the statute. You can't go the reverse, you can't be less restrictive, but it does give the option if there are some concerns that you could be a little more restrictive. But the district thing, I'll have to look at and take specific, I just don't remember that off the top of my head.
I wonder if the city is getting any inquiries about this.
Mainly the city of Bryn Richmond dealt with the golf cart. And I think both of them denied it.
You know, I don't know that the intent of this is, you know, for somebody with an ATV that lives in the city of Richmond, is to drive all the way to Poozy or.
Walmart?
Well, it's not Walmart, because, I mean, it talks about like double yellow lines, right? So like, they wouldn't be allowed to be on Tates Creek Road, or they wouldn't be allowed to be on Boonesboro Road, or 421, or 52, or, because I think it talks about in here about it like a double yellow line. And to Jenny's point.
Yeah, I don't know that it's double yellow. I think
Or it says a
requires
center
any
line
center
pavement markings.
Any center pavement markings, yes.
Pavement markings. So, you know, a lot of your state routes, even your RS routes, have a center marking. So, you know, they wouldn't technically, by this, be allowed to be on a Poozy Ridge Road.
College Hill Road.
College Hill Road, you know. And then it goes to my concern about our county roads, and, you know, is there going to be any damage done to our county roads if this is allowed? Does this mean that, you know, then people from Garrett or people from Harlan County can haul their ATV up here, and then you know, I don't know. There's a lot of concerns, and and obviously anything new that you do, I think it's good for us to think all this through. But I need some direction, because obviously the girls in the office are getting calls quite frequently. Is the fiscal court going to take this up? I'd had some conversations with a couple different gentlemen that I was going to bring it to the fiscal court to get some direction. And so that's what I've done here.
Well, what do they want?
Well, of course, they want
To be able to drive on the road.
they want to be able to they want
Like
us to
they're doing it
pass it.
anyway. He was driving on them anyway.
Well, you take Second Street right beside you, center line, that's got a center line. Any road you see, unless it's one lane, like some of the roads in the county that's real rural, that's what I understand where they could ride. But anytime it's got a center line, they're illegal to ride. Now, one thing it's going to put a lot of work on, not only our office, but any other law enforcement agency, is the county attorney's office, because all these are going to fall under their jurisdiction. What are we going to do with, if we catch the ATV out here and, they can't leave it parked on the side of the road, so they tow it in. Now we're going to get more complaints. And then she's going to get more complaints once it goes into there. So if people would ride them in the proper place where they're supposed to be, that'd be fine. But we know that don't happen.
So, Judge, my opinion on this is that during my 11 years, the most complaint calls that I have received, the sheriff can testify to this, has been for four-wheelers and ATVs. I can tell you now that Tom Bodkin, if you're listening, this is Tom Bodkin, I'm never going to vote for this. That's my direction for you.
And all these other places.
Back in the summer, when that Senate bill, I guess that's a Senate bill, is that correct?
Yeah, Senate Bill 63.
When it passed, I stand outside there, and one of those came through our neighborhood. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Was it not on a road that it should have been on? It was in a residential neighborhood, and muffler, call it a muffler if that's what you want to call it, been just well been a tin can. It's like, no. The answer for me is no. That ain't happening.
Well, we get a lot of calls on juveniles or adults without a driver's license, or, a lot of them drive a lawnmower when they lose their license, different things. But I think the county attorney, I think it's going to make a lot more work on them as well as the other agencies around. But one stipulation, I think, Jenny, is that they have to have an operator's license to even operate. Isn't that right, Kenny?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, and just to clarify too, I know Sheriff talked about Second Street. They can ride on a road that has a center line pavement. They just can't ride for more than 20 miles, which is almost worse than saying they can't ride on it, because I'm not sure how
And that's-
the law enforcement,
It's
the
20
officer's
there
going
and
to.
back, and it's really 10, isn't it?
It's 20 total. Whatever you're doing, you can only, it's 20 total. You're only getting
So,
20
Sheriff,
total.
It's complex.
You're going to
Yeah,
have.
so I'm not sure how
whenever you pull.
how any law enforcement agency is going to be able to prove that when they bring it to court. And so nothing may come to court.
That-
I tell everybody, I'm there every day of the week. So what's added on, that's what I like to, that's where I like to be. But enforcement of that's going to be somewhat complicated.
A lot of this sounds good on paper, but in reality, it's tough to enforce, and it's tough on the people that have those type vehicles.
Well, and that's why I appreciate the foresight of the bill creator to allow each county to make a decision versus saying it's state law and we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Because, we're very diverse across the state. Imagine Jefferson County's not entertaining this right now, so.
Yeah, no, some of your bigger counties we've already talked to, it's not even being brought up.
Right.
But as far as the enforcement goes, I appreciate Sheriff pointing to our office, but we already have people who drive without a license. We already, we have to deal with it. There are people who are not going to follow the law regardless. There are those that are going to. So as far as I'm concerned, that's not a factor in that determination.
I always love that video on one of the reels or whatever, and the guys on video court, and his license are suspended, and you can totally tell he's driving down the road in his car. Judge, you drive?
Oh, it's the number one question.
Yeah.
How'd you get to court today? It happens a lot.
Yeah. So, okay, I think I've heard what, are y'all good? Any more conversation, discussion? All right, we'll move on to the next thing, and it's personnel. Good morning, Jessica.
Good morning, members of the court. I would just like to ask that you all approve the hiring recommendation in your packet this morning.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, call the roll.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Bakker?
Yes.
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes, thank you, Jessica, appreciate it. I want to give a quick judge's report. I'll try to make it quick because I know we've been at this quite some time today. I want to say thank you and give a citizen shout out to Mr. and Ms. Rudy LaShaft for their donation to the Madison County Emergency Communications Center 911 Fund. It was very kind of them. They stopped by the office the other day and they followed that a lot, and they actually gave us a donation. So I appreciate their support. Due to the weather forecast for Wednesday, we have decided to postpone the Madison County Animal Shelter Halloween adoption event until Thursday, November 6th from 5 to 7 p.m. at Whitehall Park here out in the north end of the county there. The State of the County address will be live streamed on Richmond Chamber of Commerce Facebook page at 12:15 p.m. on Thursday, October 30th. It's coming Thursday. And then my friend Mayor Bruce Fraley's State of the City address will be at noon on Monday, November 3rd at the Brea Gallery and Event Center. If you want to register for that, go to BreaKYChamber.org, BreaKYChamber.org. Visit our website at MadisonCountyKY.gov/community events to see a list of events that are going on in our community. And this is just a reminder that Madison County Government and Interrelated Office will be closed Tuesday, November the 11th in observation of Veterans Day, which is our fiscal court day, which we already have. We had it on the calendar for Wednesday. So everybody just remember that our fiscal court meeting will actually be on November the 12th, Wednesday, due to fiscal court, the county offices being closed. Moving on to the magistrate's comments. Billy Ray.
All's well.
All's well.
Hey,
Tom?
Just quickly, Judge, thank you, Scott, for your help on the county issues that I've had. Thanks to Brandon for his things as well. We won't have court before Veterans Day, but I just want to say, Judge, and you already know this, Veterans Day is my favorite holiday. Out of all of them, that's the one that I appreciate the most, and I respect those individuals because, you know, when you see a veteran, they earned it. Mm-hmm. And we are all sitting here today because of those individuals. And I certainly appreciate that. Judge, if anybody needs me, they can reach me at 200-9765.
Thanks, Tom. Brian?
Don't have a lot, Judge. Just glad to be here.
Yep, glad you're here. Kenny?
No, sir. Go ahead.
Counselor?
No, sir.
Sheriff, you good? Jailer? All right. Comments from department heads. Any department heads need to address the court today? We don't have any audience left. So I need a motion and a second to pay the claims, approve the transfers.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the roll.
Mr. Bakken?
Yes.
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Our next meeting is November the 12th, as I said earlier, November the 12th, Wednesday, November the 12th, 2025. It will be in Brea at 9:30 a.m. And before we adjourn, just found this quote and just wanted to read it. And I hope enough people watch it to get it. But you didn't go where you are today for nothing. Remember, there's a purpose for every challenge, a lesson for every mistake, and an accomplishment for every step you take. Life isn't easy, and everything happens for a reason. So keep moving forward, and most importantly, never give up. Need a motion and a second to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Aye.
Mr. Bakken?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Jenny, before you get out of here,